Hi, gratitude seekers. Welcome to a new episode of the Gratitude Podcast. Today, I have a really interesting guest for you. His name is Vids. He loves people and business and is frequently described as the happy entrepreneur by his peers. But don't underestimate his kindness for weakness, as Marty is also recognized as a disruptor, innovator, and leader in small business within Australia. Marty always has first people perspective. You take care of people, and they take care of business, which I really love. And his strength is setting a vision, attracting and developing great people to execute the plan. So I think these are great traits for a businessman. He built startup businesses through to $1 million per annum turnover. He won a national award in Australia, and more. I will let him tell you about him and what he does and what his journey has been until now. Marty?
Well, how are you, Georgian? And thanks for allowing me to be on your podcast.
Totally.
I think you've described it beautifully. I do love people and business, but it's important to get that order right. So you don't love business first instead of people. So it goes hand in hand. And I think that's one of the things I've always been grateful for, is to work with tremendous people, because you don't achieve anything without really working as a collaboration and as a tribe to a bigger vision. And we always wanted to serve the community and have a point of difference in business. And I'm totally grateful for the journey. And but that's a bit about my background. We've won national awards. We've always looked at quality, not quantity. So we've built momentum on quality, and that in itself has then built momentum to really make these businesses something as a point of difference in the small business market in Australia. So, which we're very proud of.
That's awesome. I know that you've built 3 companies and sold them or something like this.
Yeah, and generally within a 5 to 6 year time frame. So
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be, it's strange. I'll have a vision for something that's very inspired, where in a quiet moment, and there might not be a lot going on for a while, and then all of a sudden the inspiration hits and the pieces of the puzzle fall into place, and then it's really creating a plan to execute on that vision. I always say have a wonderful vision and a vague plan, because I guarantee you, as soon as you put too strict a plan, it changes very quickly. So you've got to be very responsive in business as to what the market wants and what what people want in the market. So but I've had, for some reason, that I didn't realize that turning over $1 million per annum in small business in Australia was a big thing, because we were just focused on delivering great service to our clients. But I realize now that only 3% of business owners ever achieve that in Australia. So I think that was something. And with the awards, you don't run business to win awards, but they're always nice when they come along, because you can leverage that for marketing, and everyone's very proud of it within the business, and your clients feel good because they're a part of your business. And but from the financial standpoint, it was something that surprised me that more small business owners didn't achieve those types of results, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm really curious. I hope we will find out what are your secrets, how you manage to actually get to be one of the top 3% in small businesses in Australia, and how you use gratitude to get there. But we will get there step by step. My first question is, what is gratitude for you? What does gratitude mean for you, Marty?
The best way I can describe it is in a heartbeat. And I'll elaborate on that, because I've had the situation where no matter what the mind constructs in regards to business and some of the fears we have and some of the opportunities we have, I've witnessed my son's heartbeat on a monitor. I've witnessed my own heartbeat, getting some tests done, and I've also watched my grandfather die, and I've watched his heart stop. And when I think about life and gratitude, when I think about each and every heartbeat we have, that really brings everything into perspective for me. It's beyond mind. It's beyond mind, and it's a wonderful thing. And I think if we're making decisions from that place, that has to be the first point of foundation to really launch from. And to me, that's what gratitude is. I always say, in a heartbeat, transformation can occur. It can happen very quickly. You can have those aha moments, and it hits you just at the right time, or you're in the right environment, or you meet the right person. And that's what I'm grateful for, because within all the noise of the world we live in, when you can really listen to that heartbeat and what that means for you and what gives you pleasure, then the rest you can utilize your mind to connect into that and express your best self. And I think just by being born, we've won the lottery, because it's not a given. It's not a given. And from a personal point of view, I know our family, we've had 8 miscarriages.
Wow.
Um, so, so to have one boy who's just the most beautiful boy in the world, to me, and to everyone else that meets him, Charlie, but there's something so special in that heartbeat. And there's also something so, empty without it. And I'm grateful for the heartbeat of my son, my wife, my family, and the people I come into contact with, because it's a real blessing. It really is.
This is wonderful. I've never heard this perspective on gratitude. And yeah, well, when we have these kind of experiences, contrasting experiences, because we think that everything that's working is something that's really normal, like when you want to have a baby, you just have a baby, or that we are just born and everything is perfect. And when you have this kind of experience, like you had with 9 miscarriages, is it puts things into perspective, and you get to appreciate more the fact that we are actually alive and that we have a heartbeat. And this is pretty amazing.
There's a genuine gratefulness for self. And I think, and that's the expansion, because love's reflected back to you with the love you give as well. So if you, and it's very easy for the ego to go crazy, because because we tend to be in a world that's very externally motivated. So you always have to, that's always a foundation point for me. So if I'm going to do something, I say, am I excited about that? Am I inspired about that? And I'll go, yeah, in a heartbeat, I want to do that. Or
Mm.
not, or not, and I go, something doesn't feel quite right. It might logically make sense, but I'm questioning in my mind on too many things. Okay, something just doesn't feel right. So I first use that as a foundation, and then I use the mind to process from there. It's all
Hmm.
connected.
Yeah, this is wonderful. I think it's the gut feeling that great entrepreneurs have. Like they just know when something is the right way to go about it, or if it's not. And afterwards, they process it with their mind. And I think this is awesome.
Yeah, and it is something where, even with choosing business partners, and when I met my wife for the first time, I go, I was just out of a long-term relationship, and going, I really don't want to be in a relationship for another 12 years. And then, but I just knew as soon as I saw her, there was something there that I had to take more notice of. And that's the same with business partners on a different scale. When you meet someone and you go, I don't know why, but I need to know them. I need to explore that further. And I would say, go with that feeling and explore that. Explore that. Don't discount that, because the mind can be very quick to go, that doesn't make sense, when
Hmm.
really you're getting information you need to be listening to.
Yeah, because otherwise it would be really hard to process all of the things that that you should take into consideration in order to make that decision. And when you have this feeling, this intuition, this is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you have a favorite quote on gratitude? Something that inspires you?
It's a bizarre quote, but it's from an old play that I did at school when I was 18 with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. And it's sorry to bring up so much, about the heartbeat, but it was like, I think, therefore I am. So again, that gratitude in regards to being alive is something that I guess I experienced at a very young age. Just the fact I'm able to think, therefore I am. And there's a gratefulness in that as well, because the world is a stage to play in and to have fun in. And I picked up that from a very young age, to really see the lighter side of life. Not take you. There's times to be serious and times to really execute on skills, but there's a lightheartedness, and that really is nice to express and share with people. And if people are smiling, they're listening. And I really like that. I really enjoy that. And so it's not that I'm doing, stand-up comedy all around the place, but I try and take a serious situation and I might lighten the mood, because I find that you can get quicker to solution in that lightheartedness, as opposed to the panic and the fear that sometimes can happen in life and in business as well. But definitely, I think, therefore I am. And that's probably hypocritical to my first quote in some way, because the fact our thoughts may not generally matter on the bigger scale of things, given our heartbeat. But it's a nice balance.
Yeah, I think that it's rather the fact that we have the awareness, not actually having the thoughts, but actually being aware of ourselves, aware of others. uh, if how I understand it, this is the way you relate to it, more than just having thoughts that go
Correct.
randomly in your mind. The fact that you're aware of life, the fact that you're aware of your heart, you're aware of everything that's going around, you're appreciating life and everything. I think that um, this is how you actually see this quote, if I'm
Yeah,
understanding correctly.
absolutely. Yeah, there's an interconnectedness with all of it, and I've always thought that we are a reflection of each other. So you know, I can't judge that, because we're all human at the end of the day. So I take out all the boundaries, and like when I'm talking to you, George, and today it's I'm present with you, as I will be with my client after this. And it's a wonderful experience to be able to have that.
Yeah, exactly. And um, we sometimes are in our past thinking about what happened, or in the future, but actually the most beautiful part of life is being present in the moment, in what we are doing right now. When you're listening to the podcast, to just be with the podcast and listen to our conversation, and just be present, and yeah, just enjoy the moment, like Marty said. So
Yeah, and go underneath the mind construct when you're listening to us, and just go into the energy of what we're experiencing here. And there's a peacefulness in it, and share that space with us, because that will self-resolve a number of different things when you get to that quiet. And Georgian's absolutely right. So yeah, enjoy that.
yeah, I think this is really good, because we sometimes think when getting back to thinking, if we think a lot about a situation, somehow something good would happen. But sometimes just being in the present, being peaceful, and enjoying the moment might actually bring out solutions out of us. that we weren't able to actually get to if we were just thinking about that certain situation on and on and on and on.
So true, so true. And whenever you're looking to resolve a situation, the worst thing that you can do is add more information in and overwhelm the system. I always look at it as living with significance. And I'm not a minimalist, as you know, there's a bit of a trend going on now. I just can't see myself living in a lounge room with one table with an apple on it. It just doesn't match my my lifestyle. But it's like I have a sense of real significance and richness. So it might be one beautiful thing that you have that you really admire and you love. So it's decluttering all the excess. And that's the same in business thinking as well. Sometimes the solution is not adding more information, it's taking things away until it works. And that's a really effective strategy in life and in business, to really do the significant things that deliver amazing value.
Exactly, exactly. Um, but I'm really curious, Marty, what do you do when it's not that easy to be grateful, when things are not going your way, and feeling grateful isn't the easiest thing to do? What do you do then?
Well, we all have those moments where we just want to blame the world and everyone else. I think that's just what the ego does. And as you get older, you realize that doesn't work. And I can only talk for me personally, but up until the age of, yeah, probably 30, 32, I was more about validating with achievement. I wanted to validate myself. I wanted to show that I had a sense of worth. And, that can be very destructive as well, because you can shoot yourself in the foot by being that way. But I think it's a natural evolvement as well. Everyone can have different experiences in their own consciousness and changing their beliefs and values as they go. But in those times, what I discovered, there's really not anything good by judging others and being in that state of mind. I found that it really doesn't rectify anything. In fact, it makes it worse. It's like throwing wood on the fire. You just get a bigger fire that burns more stuff. And yeah, so for me, that discovery at about 32 through to 35, there was a big shift, because I go, you know what, I'm probably losing some friendships here. I'm not engaged with my family as much. I'm so driven that I'm forgetting about what's really important in life. And I'm very grateful to go through the experience of learning skill and building businesses. But I also acknowledge the failures within that as well. And you make a choice. Some people call it a sacrifice, but it's actually, you make a choice to be that way. And what I would say is, before that bottoms out, it's very important to sometimes pause and be still and ask, what is this all about? What's important to me? What gives my life meaning and significance? And if that, if you get different answers from that, then that's a really good thing. But yeah, I could be very ungrateful with the best of them through my 20s, and I knew something had to change. And yeah, I certainly went on a path. I did something called it's like a Vipassana noble silence, where I went to a retreat for 10 days in my mid 30s, and you weren't allowed to talk. You just meditated from 4 a.m. in the morning to 9 p.m. at night. And oh my goodness, it was the most profound experience. I realized every thought, whether it was negative or positive, would show up in the body, in the cell of the body. Like, you'd have a negative thought about someone and show up in your index finger. And I thought, wow, look at the effect of our mind on our physical body. And holding on to some of that, I guess that judgment and annoyance at people, I realized that you really are doing yourself damage by doing that, as well as breaking down potential relationships. So for me, it was very much a transition point at that point to go, oh, okay, this is important, that I have a sense of that lightheartedness and love in my own life moving forward, and share that with others in a different way. but I'm very grateful of the transition. And sometimes, it still hits, but now I can move out of it a lot more quickly than I used to, because I have an awareness it's happening. Before, I didn't know it was happening.
Yeah, I think this is the value in cultivating an attitude of gratitude. The fact that even though you're not grateful all the time, when something does happen and you do feel down, or you do have the tendency of blaming others, or things like these, you can easily get through it, because your main state, your more constant state, is gratefulness, actually.
Yeah, and that's where that inner heartbeat has been very useful, because there's no logic around that. So that just peels away all the layers of thought, and just puts me back into that space. So I try to come from that space all the time, but sometimes you get pulled out of it for whatever reason. But there's now a system in place, like you said, that is much more organic if I'm listening. It's when I'm not listening, that's when yeah. But there's a way through now, which is great.
Yeah. And how did you become grateful? Like, when did you have, or what experience did you have that got you to choose gratitude? Because we know about gratitude most probably for a lot of time, but actually understanding the concept and living it is something that's really deep, and it takes a while, and it takes some experiences that we need to have.
Definitely my wife and my son um, taught me that, because they love me unconditionally, and that's very special. Like, it's very special to know that you can fall and someone's there for you regardless. And I met my wife going back in 2000. And again, it was one of those things where we said, we're not going to have a relationship, but I'd be coming home and fixing my tie up as I came into the house. We were flatmates first. And yeah, she'd make some cheese and dips, and she'd be doing her hair in the bathroom. But we weren't together. We weren't together. So it was like there was just a love there. And to experience that, I've only really experienced that at that level with my grandmother, and that was, again, just beautiful moments of walking on tracks and feeding animals, and just that real sense of, yeah, being loved unconditionally regardless of the circumstances. So I guess it's been through moments in my life where that awareness has evolved, and yeah, that's made a difference. I've always drunk that in, and yeah, taken my awareness to the next level with that.
Yeah, this is amazing. This is amazing. And you said that in your 20s, it was not that easy to find a balance in your life, and you were um, maybe working too much and everything. Um, what would you tell your younger self about gratitude?
Yeah, if I had I mean, it is what it is. So I wouldn't be here today without those experiences. So I am grateful for that. But if I was giving advice to myself as a 21-year-old, I would say follow my dream in the arts. So I'm a very creative person, and I was able to create. I did stand-up comedy when I was younger, because I was inspired by
Cool.
Robin Williams with Good Morning Vietnam. I always thought humor made things better, even in war. So that always captured my imagination. And I did stand-up comedy for a number of years, just wanting to create joyous experiences for the audience. And and at 23, I thought I better get a real job. And I think like I said, I'm grateful that I was able to be creative in the financial space, but that would be something I would say. I would say to my younger self, "Hey, Marty, don't discount that, because you're on a path that not everyone understands, but it's a really interesting path, and you just don't know where it's going to go." And in a funny sense, through the podcasting and, creating podcasts and being on podcasts, I'm really living that creative spirit, which I love. And I really engage people, like when I mentor them, to really connect into the qualities of what they experienced when they were young and what's the similarities now, and really connect them back into that. Because you find you can send someone on a weekend's fishing because they used to do it with their grandfather when they were 11, and all of a sudden doors open in unexpected places. So yeah, so for me, that's it's a, I'm not sure if I answered the question, but I think if I would talk to my younger self, I would definitely say explore the road you're on if you're really enjoying it, regardless of the external criticism. Because I did listen at that age to that external criticism, and I did want to be accepted. And I think the entrepreneurs that shock us beyond what they do with their incredible feats really follow that path. So I probably went into a path of going, okay, this is the responsible path. And then that creativity still within that, I took the skills within that industry and built businesses, because it's just my nature to do that. And that's where my creativity and my engagement with people come out. And I think that's a big point of difference in my life, having experienced that at a young age. But that's what I would say. I would just say, Marty, it's going to be okay. Don't stress about what people are saying. Just do the next gig, or, meet up the next meeting. And that's I'd be gentle, because I'm probably a bit more understanding now compared to that time, which
No,
isn't
I'm
that.
sure. Most probably we are more critical with ourselves as well when we are younger, and we expect of ourselves to have like great results in life and reach the peaks of life and everything. And sometimes we just forget to enjoy the actual age and everything that comes with it.
Absolutely. It's a great point. I would say, ensure that you engage fun in your life. Do the things that you love doing, whether it's in your career, your business, or even as a hobby. But it's really important to connect into those fun things. And if you don't, and you focus on business and you become a workaholic in it, which is definitely not healthy, then you can lose the very essence of what you enjoy about your life by working that hard. And I think to achieve a goal that really, at the end of the day, if it doesn't have any meaning behind it, it could be a problem. So that's why you've always got to come back to, why am I doing this? Why am I in the business that I'm in? And see, for me, as an entrepreneur, even in the mentoring sector, I think, oh, I could do leadership groups, I could do seminars, my brain naturally wants to run. But I go, no, the real significance for me is to engage and really be there for 12 people a year. I go, that's as simple as it needs to be. That's a wonderful community, and I can get my message out externally on great forums like this, George. And I think that's what's really significant for me, because I want to spend time with my son. I mean, my dad worked really hard, and I respect that, but I would have enjoyed more time with him as well. So, I want to ensure that I'm doing that for my son, and my wife, and my friends and family. And I think that's the real meaning to it. And it's important not to lose sight of that, because you can get busy being busy.
Yeah, totally. And um, in our society, being busy is something that you look up to. That's a busy person, or things like this. And this actually isn't very healthy, because the busier you are, usually you're more stressed out, and the quality of the relationships is lower, and it's not always the best way to go about things.
And
um,
time is all you have. Time is all you have, Georgia. And, we love podcasting. I know the audience can't see you, but I can see how happy you are doing it, as am I. And I mean, we love this. So this is why we do what we do, because we're sharing wonderful messages, and it's wonderful that two men can talk this way. This is, like you said, stress is a major issue in our society and our cultures, and we're really providing a forum where people can listen and understand and ask better questions of their own life, and ensure that they're living happily and making new decisions, and that can happen in a moment.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I set out to do, to inspire people. But I'm really curious about something. In your business, have you practiced gratitude in a way that helped your business grow?
That's a really good question. I think the gratitude in the business comes back to the clients. So for me, it was always, how can I empower people to have brighter financial futures? So for me, I every time I did a loan, like I was very focused on people building, healthy, wealthy futures to give them more freedom and more choice. So that was one of my real focuses. And I think the gratitude comes into being very gracious that they would trust me with their personal circumstances. I think that for me is what built the business. So I saw every circumstance, and I still do with every client, as to what if I was going through that? How would I want to be treated? And I was grateful the fact that, yes, you can have a skill and set an expectation and exceed it, but it doesn't mean the client has to go with you. So there's a real gratitude in that trust that people have had, and all our business was built on word of mouth. So we never
Wow.
advertised, because we didn't want to compete against the big banks, and you just couldn't. But it was all word of mouth. It was setting an expectation, over delivering where we could, and really creating a great community and a fantastic experience for the client. They felt a part of it. And simple things like, and this is something people can engage in their own business, rather than providing incentives for referral sources, we would hold an appreciation night where everyone that had supported us in our business, once a year, we'd put on together music, a dinner. Sometimes we'd have comedians, of course, but we would put a night together and call it an appreciation night, and we would
Wow.
surprise the people that supported us. So we would never do anything to say, all right, give us 5 leads and then you can come. we were never about that. And a lot of businesses do that, but we're about surprising our clients and creating great experiences. And that really was a pay it forward, where people would think fondly of us and really work with us. And they valued our skill, but I think they valued who we were as human beings as well, in what we were looking to achieve. But I was very grateful. I never took it for granted that people didn't need to be a part of our group. And so I was really grateful that people trusted us. That was my main thing, and that's how we evolved our business.
Yeah, this is amazing. There is a business coach here in Romania that does something really interesting, and I think it's great on this perspective. Like he says something like this: usually, when we don't receive a payment for an invoice, or when uh, generally we don't receive a payment or something goes wrong, we put a lot of energy into that. We call that person and we do all kinds of things to make sure we get the money and everything. I'm talking in general in business. And he said that what he does differently is that he sends appreciation letters to people that are paying. And it's
What a wonderful idea.
yeah, and it's a different perspective, because instead of putting your energy on those that are not doing what they should be doing, and what on the problems. Actually, you're putting your energy into appreciating your clients and the people that already trusted you, and they also paid. And I think this is brilliant.
That's a brilliant idea, George. And the other thing to add to that that we were doing, and people would always say, "Oh, where am I going to get my business? Where am I going to get my business?" They worry about the business that's not there. And exactly what you were saying is, I just focus on doing, creating the best experience I can for the client. I don't worry about what's not there. And people would always say, "Oh, don't you look at what your competitors are doing?" I'm going, no, because I'm always focused on expanding our business and putting that energy into our business and creating new concepts and making a better client experience. And one of the things we would do, and people thought we were crazy, was we would meet with a client and we'd do a full finance proposal for them and send it to them. And, without any any want of payment, but we would do that. And people will go, well, what happens if they just go to the bank direct? And well, they're going, no, we want to document our brilliance. We want to give
Hmm.
something. That's our marketing. Rather than spending $3,000 on external marketing, let's use that as our marketing, our time to show we're committed to that client. And you know what? I think over 15 years, only 2 clients never went ahead. One bought
Wow.
me one bought me a pot plant because their friend was a broker, and they come back in and felt bad and bought me a pot plant. And I thought, well, I got to be grateful. It's a pot plant. I was in
Yeah.
my late 20s then, George, and I was still transitioning into gratefulness. So, but the other person just genuinely wasn't probably the person I wanted to deal with anyway. So they went direct to the bank, and I rang them and said, "Is there anything we did wrong?" And it was nothing. It wasn't anything we did wrong. It was just purely that was that person's choice, and that's okay. The other thing we did that, like, we do a survey at the end of the experience, and when someone's good enough to do a survey for us, even if they rate us 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, we always ring them and we thank them for the 10 out of 10. But if it's 9 out of 10, or even if it's sometimes there's a 7 out of 10, we will ring them and we will say, I noticed you put a 7 out of 10. What could we have done better? Because you learn so much. There's so much stuff you learn if you're open to just listening to your client base. And, people go, "Oh, well, I gave you a 9." And I'm going, yeah, we want to, we want to do better. We want to keep improving. So we're working with our clients and our community to build something great. And I always say, if you're going into business, don't go into business because you don't want to work a job, or you think you think it's maybe better. Go into business because you want to build a great business, because you see something that no one else is doing, or you're inspired to deliver something that will make a difference. And give it your effort, give it your power. It's go in and build a great business. Ask yourself, what does a great business look like? And I think that's where the vision comes in. What's your vision for a wonderful and a great business? And then you can always reverse engineer it and come back into the presence and say, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? And the fact that you can create with your heart and mind that vision means at some level your brain already has a blueprint for it. Otherwise, you couldn't conceptualize it. So
Hmm.
it's a very powerful way to go about it.
Yeah, it's there's a quote on this, like what mind of man can conceive, it can achieve, or something like this.
Yeah, as a man thinketh. That's a great
Yeah.
quote. Wonderful quote. Absolutely. I love that one.
Yeah, totally. So, getting back to gratefulness, I'm really curious if you have some practice that you do to keep you grateful, or when you started to uncover gratitude in yourself, if you had some kind of practice that helped you be grateful.
Yeah, the Vipassana, that 10 days noble silence, was the real beginning of an awareness shift. So meditation is a big thing for me, and it's really interesting because it's evolved over time. Like I started out just doing 5 to 10 minutes a morning, and that was, very, very useful. But I was logically meditating. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is my mind, I just, I gave my mind permission to run, but it would be stuck in the mind and keep running on different tangents. But then all of a sudden I had this epiphany where I got underneath the mind, where it was still and really, really safe. And I didn't put time limits on the meditation then. I just allowed it to really be what it was. And whether it was 2 minutes or whether it was 40 minutes, I would just sit in that space. And the wonderful thing about, and it's interesting when I think back from the ego, I think I was terrified to go into that space. The mind wasn't ready to let go of all the constructs. And all of a sudden I got underneath it, and it went quiet, and it was still. There was no fear, there was no past or future. It was just being able to be comfortable with that space. And that was really yeah, talk about gratitude. I got a different level of consciousness with that, that really, well, it really changed all my logical decision making process, in that, there were so many things that were meaningful that I would never have been able to access if I didn't persevere. And now it's like that, as we started, in a heartbeat. It's like, it's almost like I'm in a constant state of meditation, and I'll come out of it now and then, but it's there for me, and I'm there for me, and I'm there for people. And and that's what life, to me, really is at this point. And hey, Georgian, it might shift again in 12 months, and you never know. You never know. We might be walking on water. You just don't know. And I don't want to put any labels on it, but it's a wonderful progression, life. And I find that it keeps getting better as your awareness grows, and as you become more comfortable within your own skin, and more grateful for the very life that you've been given.
Exactly, exactly. I love it. I love it. I've experimented with meditation myself, and I know what you're talking about, and it's really wonderful to be in that state.
What's your
Um,
practice, Georgian, out of interest?
oh, I have many practices. I try to integrate gratitude as much as possible in everything that I do. I begin my day with gratitude. Um,
Wonderful.
and right now I'm working on a course on how to rewire your brain for gratitude, and I'm studying how I can improve on this even more. And one of the things that I've learned in the process, and it's really interesting, when you have a positive experience, like even when you get up in the morning, when you're in bed, and just to feel the gratitude of having a warm bed in which you wake up, a comfortable bed, and really getting it in, and not just okay, just for 1 second think about it, but actually um, deepen the gratitude, and that has a really positive effect on your neural pathways. It builds them, it makes them stronger, and it makes it much more easy to access it in the future. And I love experimenting this with this.
Oh, well, look, you're a highly evolved, person, and I think that,
Thank you.
what you're doing is tremendous, and you will change so many lives, not only obviously on what we're talking about, but through all your podcasts. And
Thank you.
my hope is that the more and more people that get access to your podcast, they'll just experience a shift by being in the energy. And I think that it's a exciting road.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your words.
But it's a pleasure.
But we're not at the end yet. I wanted to ask you if you had some mentors or some people in your life that you're grateful for that you would like to mention.
Yeah, and it's that serendipity of people that have come across my path that have been mentors, even though they weren't mentors. It's my grade 5 school teacher, Laurie Burt, was instrumental. He played football over here. He was a captain of a football club, and I loved football. And I was always getting like low marks in grade all the way through grade 4, but because he was such an inspiration to me, and he utilized football to teach me mathematics and English, and he had me read newspapers on football, so my language skills improved. He saw something in me that was different. And my social studies book, I remember I got straight A's that year. The next year I went back to D's and C's, and it was pretty bad again. But but he connected with me on a different level as a mentor and a teacher, and and I wanted to really step up to the plate as well for him. So it was like that perfect storm of two people coming together. And I rang him actually 20 years later to thank him because it had such an impact in my life. And he said to me, my social studies book that I did, he kept from the start of the year to the end of the year, and he used it for the next 12 years to show his children
Wow.
as to what you could achieve if you really put your mind to it. And that nearly, like, that was so amazing. So he was instrumental. And I've had another gentleman by the name of Andy Meikle. When I was 27, I was in the bank, going through the motions, and he spoke to me. He was a very highly successful Ironman in Australia. And he said to me, Marty, do you always want to finish 7th in life? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, do you want to finish 7th, or do you want to have an experience of what it's like to finishing first? And I go, well, of course, my ego's going, yeah, yep, number one. That sounds good. That sounds good. But what he did was he was able to see something beyond what I could see in myself. And that's what I'm grateful for. I could only see up to the life experiences I had at that point. And he could see something in me. And he was good enough to talk to me about it and said, why don't you model the people that are doing exceptionally well in the building and see what happens? Because your capability's there, but you're really not accessing it to the level you could. And I did that, and within 6 months, I had 3 job promotions. I tripled my income, and
Wow.
I noticed I wasn't watching, Jerry Springer at lunchtime in the lunchroom. I was out talking to clients and engaging, and yeah, all of a sudden things turned around quickly. And within 12 months, I started my first business. So again, he was pivotal. And then more recently, Trevor Hendy, who's another, I'm not sure, I don't really swim, but I attract all these Ironmen that are world champions, which is, it's quite incredible. And Trevor's 3 years older than me. He's 48 and I'm 45 now. But he walked me through into that space to get deeper into gratitude, like really into that state of peace where, you know, I thought I was getting down to it, but I felt safety with him as a mentor to take me there and for it to be okay. And that was very unique experience to have another man walk you through that and feel that level of safety at a whole different level again. So he's really transcended my thinking through that experience. And that's, yeah, I'm very appreciative to those 3 people. And I guess my grandmother's my childhood mentor, which I love. And she was such a determined lady. Like in the Second World War, when the US were going to come and bomb all the houses in Germany, they basically said over the radio, if you don't want your house bombed, put a white sheet on the roof. And of course, everyone in Germany is going, there's no way we're going to do that. We're not going to let the US win. Like, yeah. But my gran wanted to protect her family, and that's exactly what she did. And her house
Wow.
didn't get bombed, and her family was safe. So there are times to show courage beyond the system. And I was, my gran taught me that, to go, you don't always have to follow the same path as everyone else, but you have to have real significance as to the action you're taking. And that was, yeah, when she passed away, that was like, oh my goodness, she was really my angel. And yeah, she's the equivalent of my wife and Charlie, my son. Like it's sometimes you just get that one special person that you think about still every day and you're inspired by, and that's a unique and wonderful thing to have.
I know I can totally relate because I've been raised by my grandma as well,
Wow, wow, yeah,
and totally she's an inspiration for me. She lived until she was 93 years old, and she was active. She was taking care of me. She was taking care of the house. She was actually helping my parents, and she was able to do all these things even though she was an elderly lady. She had a lot of friends, and she was smiley, and she was just amazing. Yeah.
amazing, yeah, amazing. And it's one of those things, like that's the thing I have to remind myself to be grateful for, because I miss her every day. And
Yeah.
it's but I'm grateful for the experiences, and I think that manifests in me in the way I behave out in the world as well. So it's yeah, it's some good grooming there.
Totally, totally. So where can our audience find you, Marty? Where can uh, where can we see your work?
Yeah, well, you can go to www.martyvids.com.au. So that's VIDS. And yeah, if you would like, on that website, there's a discovery list of 20 questions, which includes very personal things about gratefulness on that. But if someone wants to fill that out, because there isn't anything that comes without some form of effort, I'd be happy as a part of your listeners to do a 20-minute free coaching call for any individual that wants to go to the effort of filling that out, because I think, like you said, we've got a great message here, and we just want to go out and help as many people as we can.
Awesome, awesome, good. Thank you very much, Marty, for being here with us and for sharing your wisdom and your experience. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's a pleasure, and keep doing great work, Georgian. You're fantastic.
Thank you.